Let's start with an idea that's, well, it's so simple, but it secretly runs almost every decision you make. I'm talking everything from your weekly grocery run all the way up to huge government policies. It's all about the difference between what you need and what you want. And, getting a handle on this it's like finding a key to understanding how economics really works.
All right, let me paint a picture for you. Imagine this. You've got 20 quid left. Just 20, and it has to last you till the end of the week. Now, your electricity bill is staring you in the face. But you've also just spotted the perfect pair of designer trainers, and they're on sale. So, what's it going to be? What do you do? That single, simple choice, that's the absolute heart of what we're digging into today.
See, that choice right there, the bill versus the trainers, it forces you to figure out what's truly important. It makes you set priorities. So let's break it down. Let's lay out the basic rules of the game here. What exactly is the difference between a need and a want?
Okay, first up, let's talk about needs. A need isn't just something that would be kind of nice to have. No. This is the stuff you absolutely have to have just to survive. These are the non-negotiables, the absolute fundamentals of human life.
So what are we talking about here? Well, the classic examples are pretty obvious, right? Food, clean water, a roof over your head, some clothes. But things have changed. In our modern world, a lot of economists would argue that this list is bigger now. They'd add things like healthcare and education, because let's be honest, without those, it's really tough to live a healthy, productive life. All right, now let's flip the coin over and look at wants. A want is, well, it's something we desire. It's something that makes life a little bit better, right? More fun, more convenient, maybe just more enjoyable. And this is the key part, you can totally survive without it. And I bet the examples here are going to sound pretty familiar. We're talking about the latest iPhone, those designer trainers we mentioned earlier, fancy holidays, heck, even your streaming subscriptions. All great things to have, for sure. But are they essential for survival? Nope. So let's just put it side by side. Needs are universal, we all have them, and they're essential to stay alive. Wants, on the other hand, just make our quality of life better, and they're different for everybody. The bottom line is this. One keeps you going, the other just makes the ride a little more fun. Simple as that. Okay, so needs versus wants. It seems pretty straightforward, doesn't it? But why is this one simple idea so important in the world of economics? Well, it all boils down to one huge fundamental problem that affects every single one of us. And here it is. The central problem of economics is that everything is limited. Our time, our money, the raw materials on this planet, it's all finite. But our desires, our wants, they're basically infinite. We always want more. And that conflict, that natural tension between limited stuff and unlimited desires, that is the absolute heart of what economics is all about. That tension actually has a name. It's called scarcity. And scarcity is the reason we have to make choices. It's this powerful force that pushes everyone, from you and me to entire countries, to decide what's important. Because we can't have it all, we're forced day in and day out to choose between our needs and our wants. But, this is where it gets really interesting. Remember that nice, clean line we drew between needs and wants? Well, it's not always that clean. In fact, that line can get pretty blurry. It can actually move over time. Let's take the internet. It's a perfect example. Think back to, say, 1995. Having the internet was a total want. It was a luxury, something for tech nerds. Fast forward to 2010, and okay, it's become a pretty important tool for work and staying in touch. But now, today, for a huge number of people, it is an absolute need. You can't apply for jobs, get an education, or even just take part in everyday life without it. Yeah, and this idea is summed up perfectly here. The definition of what we need and what we want can completely change depending on the society we live in and the time period. It's not set in stone. I mean, think about a washing machine. That used to be the height of luxury. Now, good luck trying to run a modern household without one. It's become a need. So if that line is always moving, it raises a big question. Who decides what a society should focus on? And this is where you start to see this really interesting divide in how governments and businesses tend to think. When you look at the big picture, governments generally focus on making sure our collective needs are taken care of. Think about funding for things like the NHS or support for housing. Businesses, though, they often zero in on supplying our wants. Why? Well, because that's where the real money is, right? Selling us that shiny new smartphone or that once-in-a-lifetime holiday. Phew, okay. So we've covered a lot here, haven't we? We've gone from a simple choice about 20 quid all the way up to national policy. So let's try and boil all this down into a simple blueprint, something you can use to make sense of the economic world around you. So here are the key takeaways. At its very heart, economics is just the story of needs versus wants. That problem of scarcity forces us to choose between the two, and it's those choices that power everything, from your own budget to how a whole country is run. And probably the most important thing to remember is that this whole thing is a moving target. The line between what's a need and what's a want is always shifting. And that brings us to a final question, something for you to think about. Just take a look at your own life. Think about all the things you consider wants right now, all the little conveniences, the tech, the services you use. Now ask yourself, which one of those do you think will be an absolute, undeniable need for the next generation? Because whatever the answer is, that's what's going to shape the economy of the future.